Please welcome Kenny Santucci, founder and CEO, Strong New York and the Strength Club New York City and New Jersey. Douglas Gremin, Chief Growth Officer, Hyrox. Dane McCarthy, founder, the Athletic Clubs. Sam Tooley, co-founder and CEO, Alpha Fit Club.
How we all doing? This is the fitness industry. How we all doing? All right, there we go. Guys, you have some really impressive gentlemen up here on stage. Obviously, you just heard their introductions. I had this whole WWE-style intro I wanted to do for them, but Eddie gave me the no on that. But let's give it up for Eddie Hertzman for putting on one hell of an event today, okay? Very impressive, very impressive. So today our talk is about community and competition, and we have some of the best in the business here. I'm going to throw out a big buzzword that everybody's talking about, that every company, whether you're a fitness brand or you're a hospitality brand, it doesn't matter, hotels, everybody's talking about community. And here are three gentlemen who have created some of the best communities in the tri-state area and around the world. So I'm going to throw it out there. What does community mean to you? Sam, you have multiple gyms. What do you have, 22?
21, yeah.
21 operations, and you'll have how many by the end of the year?
So we'll have 21. We have 17, opening our 17th on Saturday, and we'll have 21 by the end of the year.
What does community mean to you?
So I think that when we think about community, and to your point, it is a buzzword, so I'm going to be specific to what it means to me. You have what happens in the four walls of your gym, which is super important. We get to curate that entirely. We get to expedite the social component of it in different ways, but to me, the most exciting part is when the community bleeds outside the gym, right, and comes together outside the gym. Some of the best friendships that we've seen in the gym become lifelong friends, whether they stay members or they don't stay members, and it's insane to me when we think about even showing up at Hyrox, right? So for our gyms, Alpha Fit Club, all 21 of those locations will be in New Jersey. We brought 500 members to a Hyrox event. You see friends, family, you name it, supporting each other at an event like that. That's outside the confines of our four walls, yet it started with a direct intention within Alpha Fit Club, right? So I love seeing it bleed into other areas of people's lives. I think we almost take it as a responsibility to make that happen, especially when people are showing up for the first time, right? Fitness can be incredibly intimidating, and I think that the secret unlock to keeping people there is making them feel welcome as they go through that process. For some of us, especially up on the stage, we love fitness. It's our world, it's our life, it's something we grew up in. For the vast majority of people, it's incredibly intimidating. So when you can make them feel a part of the community first in the four walls and then outside of it, I think you're onto something.
Dane, you've created squad training, right? There are so many different gyms that would probably see what you're doing as kind of almost a no. Like for somebody who owns a business, I would say, okay, I could only train with this squad at this time. How do you think that has made your business so successful and so sticky at the same time?
Yeah, no, I appreciate the question. I think for us, our definition of community is really narrow. It is consistent, organic exposure to people. So for us, that's why we organize in squads, because we believe that if you spend that time with people on a routine, you really get to know them, not just in the gym, but outside the gym, that's when community develops. And so that's really been the ethos of our gym is how do we create community through consistent organic exposure? So, yeah.
Doug, congratulations. How many people were at Hyrox this 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago? Nobody?
Woo!
Oh, come
Some
on,
work
you
to
guys.
do.
Yeah.
That's the good news.
15,000 competitors, 40,000 people on a wait list. You have created something that, in my opinion, hasn't been around ever before in the fitness community. And you're seeing people come together from all over the globe, all over the world. You guys are also now creating certain facilities where people could train for Hyrox. What do you see the future of what people call community? Like, how do you guys see this evolving with what you guys are doing?
I think it's interesting, right? Because we got the best in the business next to us, and we're almost a conglomeration of communities coming together, right? Because, like you said, how many people are coming to Hyrox from your gym? It's been an amazing evolution of you starting with a small community. You've been a first mover. You motivate 10 more to come. You motivate 100 more to come. And all of a sudden, this is building this unique experience. And we're bringing all those different communities together under one house, one roof. We've built a friendship on the back of us meeting at a High Rocks race. So I think it's not up to us to build that community, but to empower all those gyms out there to give something extra that is beyond those four walls, something for those coaches to inspire their people to participate in. So I think we're more of a facilitator that brings those communities together, and that we're actually at the heart of it, building our own community.
Yeah. So I'm going to throw this out there because I'm sure I'd be upset if I was sitting in the audience and we didn't bring up another buzzword, which is CrossFit.
Who knows CrossFit?
So I think they've done a lot of things right. What do you guys feel like they felt short on, where all of us kind of do some sort of spin-off of what they've created? What do you think you guys are doing right now that they've kind of missed the step on?
I think we all owe a credit to CrossFit. I think it brought strength training to a lot of people who weren't doing it. I think what they did really well is organize into the boxes, and they were really the real community hubs for a lot of people. And so I think they did that really well. I think they missed just layering in some of the infrastructure to allow for the connection that Sam's Gym does and what High Rocks does.
Doug?
No, it's been obviously for us, I mean, we've kind of evaluated the market. We come surprisingly out of the marathon and triathlon world, right? So we were always building mass participation sport, which meant it to be accessible to everybody, right? And on the other side, of course, you had CrossFit that built the sport of fitness. And I think there's no doubt about it that the modality of fitness was missing a key sports component. However, it was very much in a niche of gymnastics and powerlifting, probably two of the most unpopular sports in the world, and CrossFit made them popular, but not necessarily accessible, right? And I think we've been able to kind of jump in that gap between marathon running and triathlons, which are somewhat accessible to everybody, and the void that CrossFit maybe have left a little bit on the mass participation side of training for something, competing for something, and then showing up on race day and getting the best out of yourself and win or lose and make friendships on the way.
Yeah, I think they missed that low barrier of entry for a lot of people that you guys are doing so well. So to Dane and Sam, you guys have a lot of external events. You guys do a lot with your communities. What's the goal at the end of the day, and why do you think they're so popular amongst your members? You guys have the Alpha Fit Games. You guys have a lot of charity events and different runs. I mean, 2 weeks ago, or last week, I saw you guys running down the West Side Highway. It looked like 5,000 people all dressed in black, and I go, that is so impressive. I was running next to one of my coaches, and I said, that is so impressive. They get so many people to turn out on a Saturday morning to go and run with them. Why do you think that's happening? Why do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody, it's such a special moment to have a start line to train for, right? And I think to your point earlier about what maybe CrossFit missed was the accessibility, right? We're not necessarily a High Rocks gym, and yet our members see one another towing the start line of an event, get inspired. That keeps them in the gym, which is our ultimate goal at the end of the day. But we wanted to curate an event where they didn't feel like they needed to do something other than just come to Alpha Fit Club to toe the line of our own event, right? And so for us, instead of saying you need to do maybe some extracurricular activities outside the gym, run more, you name it, it was let's take a step back and also let's do something different, right? Let's make sure that we stand out in what can feel like, at least from our vantage point, a crowded marketplace, and put on our own experience for our members and our members specifically. It's literally Alpha Games itself is exclusive to our members. We don't let other people come and compete, which is certainly different than that of High Rock. So we do an in-studio competition across all of our studios in the spring, and then come back under one roof. We literally rent a 20,000 square foot active military base and throw down. That's just different, right? It's not something that we've seen other brands do, especially in the suburbs of New Jersey, which is where we're at, right? All 21 of our locations right now at the moment are in New Jersey. So part of that design was let's serve our people and let's give them something that they're excited about and keep them coming back to the gym. And then for the 5-10% of the crazies that want to line up and do a High Rocks, that's there for them too.
Yeah, I think we take a very similar approach with AC Games. It's a great outlet for our members to compete against each other. As you mentioned, they're all organized into squads, and so some of those squads at different locations may have the same name, so they'll compete against one another. So there's that level of just, shaking out some competition. But I think the events for us that really resonate are the gala that we do at the end of the year. And for that, we do that because we think that exercise is just such an incredible vehicle for human connection. If you're seeing people consistently, you develop those friendships, you give them a gala at the end of the year to get excited about, everyone dresses up, do it for a good cause, and you get real buy-in and real friendships kind of get consolidated in those moments. So it's not just a gimme, it's like fundamentally part of our company.
Would you guys both say that the workouts would come second to the community?
So I did want to go back too in the sense of like Alpha Games for us, and it's certainly a competition, but it really is more a celebration of the work that they're doing day in and day out, right? And I know that sounds cheesy. I'm a coach at heart. That's why I started in the first place, was to coach people. But we try to make sure that we preface it in that way, right? It's not about me beating you or you beating somebody you take class with every day, although there certainly are some jabs that get thrown in that way. But it really is like, you show up, you do this every day. Our goal is to build more confident people. And in my experience as an athlete, as an entrepreneur, like there's no better way to build confidence than give someone something really freaking hard to do and let them go shine and go do that. So I think it is more about that commitment and then in turn that community that builds, because as you do hard things together, right, we know the deal. That's the vibe of a gym. That's what builds a real community, is locking arms and doing something special together. So I think you see it in High Rocks, you see it at the AC Games, you see it at Alpha. I think that's the winning recipe to really build that community.
Yeah, I'd say we have less and less people come through our sales funnel asking about modality. You know, they want to move their body, they want to connect with other people. So I wouldn't say that it's not important, and my coaches will kill me for saying this, but I will say that, you know, we're getting more interest in the squads than we are necessarily the modality. That said, people need to see results, and where we see our kind of secret sauce is, no matter what your modality is, if you're consistent, you'll get to where you want to go from a fitness perspective. So by layering in the social connection and that network effect, there's more chance you're going to show up consistently, work out harder, do things like that. You layer in High Rocks and you give people a goal, and suddenly it's real magic.
Well, I'm very intrigued by your business model, the squad model. For the coaches and trainers in the audience, could you kind of give us a little bit more of an understanding of like how that differentiates from like other kind of community gyms like Sam's?
Yeah, I mean, it's a double-edged sword. Like we forego some of the elements that other gyms are able to provide, convenience, location, and we say we really believe that fitness should be a routine. So it means a squad can only train twice a week at a set time. They have a dedicated coach, and they work out with the same people. So that means we get relatively good real estate utility, and it also means that we have really good retention because people are committed to their times. Now, of course, there's a huge part of the population that wants to go to Equinox, do 5 sets of 5, put in their headphones and talk to no one, and that's great. Like that's, you know, we're not trying to compete there. We're looking for those people who are like, I want to be part of a community. I want to be part of something. And for that, we really resonate. But we're certainly not trying to be everything to everyone. We know that there's a cohort of people, though, who are really interested in that.
Doug, which leads me into my next question. You guys get a lot of buy-in, right? If you go to a High Rocks event, you're seeing a lot of the smaller gyms. You're seeing the training lab. You're seeing the athletic clubs. You're seeing the Alpha Fit clubs. Why do you think you get so much more buy-in from the smaller club boutique fitness than you do from a lot of the larger brands?
I think it's just a matter of evolution and awareness, right? So I do think that you guys were all the first movers, right? Sam was there when there was probably 300 people at the start line, right? So those guys were pushing the needle. It was the CrossFit boxes, then went into the boutique gyms, and F45 really started stepping into that space, probably a great stepping stone into functional fitness, right? They now show up with 1,500 people to events in London, just as a crazy example, right? But I do feel, I mean, we just signed a deal with Gold's Gym last week, and they're going to start creating functional training modalities in their Gold's Gym. So I do feel that the big box gyms are now starting to move into that direction. Of course, they have to shift a lot of gear. They got to move a lot of stuff around, a lot of hardware around to facilitate functional training in the way that these guys are operating their gyms. And secondly, they got to start educating their coaches, right? They predominantly come from a very strength-based personal training background, and they now have to bring functional group training into a big box gym environment. So I think it's more of a question of time rather than the if rather than the when.
Yeah. So we've all been in the industry for quite some time, and we watched CrossFit come along. We watched Tough Mudders and Spartans. What do you guys see the next evolution of kind of competitive fitness being?
I think High Rocks got a long way to run. The buy-in that we had from our members on High Rocks was incredible. I think that's got real legs. I think really just scratching the surface on High Rocks. We're pretty invested in that. in supporting our members to get to a Hyrox for sure. Is that the right answer?
No, look, I think it's a great answer. We always said no, but
I do too if I was.
no,
It's trying to help you out, mate.
No, I mean, thank you for taking it. But it's always been a little bit that discussion because, hey, it's to compare Hyrox to Spartan, compare it to Tough Mudder, compare it to CrossFit. At the end of the day, the sport that we're trying to build was one based around what happens in the gym floor. Right? You don't necessarily have to go to a gym to race a Spartan race, but you do have to go to a gym, get the right coaching, have the right equipment, show up 3 days a week, and that's getting you ready for a Hyrox race. So we're building it on an infrastructure that you guys and all the guys that are out here have been building over the last 20, 30 years. I mean, there's 250,000 commercial gyms in the world. There's 250,000 non-commercial gyms in the world, whether it's apartment buildings, hotel gyms. So we're tapping into such mass market potential of facilities that are actually doing the sport that we build it on the back of. So there's a one-on-one correlation between training in the gym and participating in a Hyrox race, which some of those other sports that you mentioned simply don't have that correlation.
Me and Dane were chatting in the back right before this, and we were talking about how many people live in the tri-state area and how there's not even enough of us to facilitate the amount of people. If everyone had a gym membership, where would we put them all? I mean, I know in my gym, if I had 300 people, it would pack me out. I wouldn't be able to move. How do we get, as a collective, how do we get more people who aren't using our products, who aren't doing Hyrox races? How do we collectively get more people working out, doing things like what we're doing?
I mean, the lame answer is open more Alpha Fit clubs, I guess, as we go through this. But I think that's, I mean, the beauty of this, and even going back to the question before, is like there's optionality out there, right? I think as we open up, we've gone from 1 studio to 3 studios to 9 to 13 to 21 and next year 40. Like there's, as we enter new markets, something that I'm realizing, and again, I got into this as a passionate coach who just loved helping people believe in themselves, right? And I never envisioned getting to 40 studios at the end of next year. But as we enter new markets, you're recognizing that people have a tremendous amount of great options. There are amazing single unit owners, brands, businesses, you name it, race opportunities that they can quite frankly train for on their own. So I think you're just finding that there's a tremendous amount of options out there for people. So whether it's they're training for a Hyrox, right, or they train for 5 Hyroxes and say, you know what, I feel like running a half marathon again. I think it's just getting people out and about and something about like that they're excited about at the end of the day. And I think our jobs as gym operators, at least for me and Dane, is to keep giving them those options, whether they're self-generated by ourselves and actually listening to the customers and saying, what is it that they want? What's missing for them? Or finding outlets that are produced by other people and make our lives maybe a little bit easier in terms of having to do the work to create it, right? Putting on what we put on, putting on what Douglas puts on is a huge undertaking, especially while you're trying to build a business at the same time. So.
Yeah, I think that's a really good question because how do you get the people who aren't already really fit and training and going to solid core and all that kind of stuff? Like we found early days, something that worked really well for us is we insisted our coaches push everyone after a session to go get coffee. Bluestone Lane would give everyone a coffee. We got more referrals from people coming in being like, what's that group just having coffee? They didn't even know what we were doing training-wise, you know? So one guy joined us, he thought it was a social club. He rocks up to the first session. We're putting him through burpees, guy gets killed. Yeah. He ends up like getting in really good shape, met his wife, got married to her in a squad. You know, so I think it's finding those pockets outside of fitness to see how we can bring them in. Like, can we be a social club? And that gets people into fitness.
Yeah, no, definitely on that note, because that couldn't be a better tee up to think about gyms not just being real estate, right? Which generally about the big boxes that you're talking about, it was all about real estate. It was all about price value proposition, etc. Right? So if we're now slowly bringing in, and these guys showing the best example of what community is all about, I think that social belonging of you choose a gym because of the coach, because of the people, and that could be at your price point, but it could also be at a Gold's Gym price point, right? Because we should be able to facilitate people at different price points with that same experience, right? Because it can't be that you only get great community at a gym where you have to pay $250 a month. Totally. Can you facilitate community at the $30 a month gym as well? Mm-hmm. And if you get that right, you will be able to bring in more people that actually feel they have a reason to go to the gym beyond trying to lose calories, which apparently is very hard when you don't have something to train for.
So rewind the tape back, 2019. You know, Hyrox lands here in the States, and we had a couple hundred people here in New York. Sam was obviously one of them as well. We Did you ever think that it would be what it was 2 weeks ago? 15,000 people. You can't even buy a spectator ticket. I mean, how's that make you feel?
I just got goosebumps when you said it, so a little bit awkward there. But I think nobody went out into the market saying, hey, we're going to build something that's going to move the needle, not only here in New York, but also in Shanghai and in Melbourne and in Sao Paulo. And all of a sudden, you realize that the language of fitness is truly universal. It is the biggest sport in the world. Apparently, we've got the right ingredients and the right puzzle pieces together where it facilitates community, but apparently it's also extremely healthy, and we're jumping on that bandwagon of strength and endurance and that combination of the two of them. So I think we've hit a perfect storm. Of course, we were all hit by COVID in the middle, but that longing for like just meeting people and being in a physical space and all of that was just, for us, a perfect wave. And the US took a little bit longer. It's a very competitive market. We've only really just, you can never say that you've cracked it, but we've gotten to critical mass now. In Miami last year, we only had 1,700 people, so there was still a lot of work to do. But I think now that this is becoming such a global movement and a global sport, and with our inspiration to kind of go Olympic now and really move the needles in the conversations we're having with the bigger brands, endemic and non-endemic, really will hopefully create an ecosystem for all of us to drive more revenues, to get more people into the sport of fitness, just in the same way that tennis is popular or basketball is popular, but then for hundreds of millions of people that have pretty much similar ambitions, whether you're China or in the US.
Now, you guys have hit over 1 million runners.
We've had 1 million participants up to now. We'll have 1.2 million single participants in the upcoming season, which starts next week.
Olympics.
Hey, that deserves a round of applause, huh? A million people do anything. It's pretty impressive.
You're looking at Olympics?
Yeah, we're going for Brisbane, apparently a small city in Australia.
Wow.
2032.
Beating that.
Yeah, I'll go.
It's a long flight for Sam.
Sam and Dane, since community is so a part of what your ethos is and what you guys believe in, as you scale and you grow, to 40, you guys are approaching, 15 locations?
We want to be 15 by the next year, yeah.
How do you account for quality control? And how important it is, whether it's the head coach or the manager, how do you start to scale that?
Yeah, I've been blessed to be mentored by Anne Mallam. I think she's here. She started Solid Core, and she's been mentoring me for a number of years, and just really focusing on what you do well. And she was able to scale, looking after employees, looking after members. So I think the way she does that, and what she's kind of embarked on me, is you got to know what you know, and do it really well. So are you an amenities gym? If you're an amenities gym, be an incredible amenities gym. If you're a community, focus on the community and let everything else kind of just fade away. Because there's no point in us trying to compete with Equinox on amenities. We're just going to get killed. But we can say decisively, if you want a squad and you want a community, come to us, we'll look after you.
Yeah, I mean, for us, it's definitely been a challenge because we took on the challenge of trying to bring true boutique fitness and bring it to the suburbs, right? And that really, the lights are low, the music is bumping. You're not only coaching people through a strength and conditioning progressive program, right? But you're also putting on an experience that has a vibe to it. So those are sometimes contrasting skill sets that we need to focus on. And so for us, we've really chosen to, let's find people who have the foundational skill set and unlock that personality a bit, right? Because at the end of the day, people are entrusting us with their bodies, and we take great responsibility in that, right? So making sure that we're taking care of the core basics, right? To your point, know what you really know and do it the best you can, and then make it easy on these coaches, and that's really our product at the end of the day, what happens in those four walls, and everything else is, I listened to the hospitality conversation up here earlier. We're also in that business as well, and we can take care of that, right? We can make sure that when people walk in for their first class, they haven't been to the gym in 6 months, they feel welcome, they feel seen and heard, taken care of, they're followed up with, you name it. You're checking the boxes and you're doing what you know you need to do. But that in-room experience for us is crucial, and so being hyper-focused on that and making sure that the systems, the policies, the procedures, all of that are top-notch.
How important is it to your business that the two of you guys, as being strong figureheads, how important is it for you guys to be there pretty consistently, or at least on a monthly or weekly basis?
Yeah, I had a really interesting, a unique path to being a gym entrepreneur in that, I had a full-time job and still do the whole time. It's kind of hard to get into this country, so I'm working on my green card, if anyone knows one in the government. But it forced me to hire really smart people and not be the face. One of the most humbling moments I had was when I thought for a while that the only reason people came to the gym is because I remembered their names and I connected them through the community. And then I hired a guy called Mac who was a lot better looking than me, 2 inches taller than me. And people just liked him more, and I realized, geez, I'm not that special. So I kind of just started getting out of his way and letting him do what he had to do, and that's really helped us scale. So probably less than I think is maybe.
Yeah, I would say for me, I did every job we've had, right? I used to get up at 2:45 in the morning, set up the room at 3:30, lead the 5 a.m. class, you name it. I've done everything that I'm asking other people to do, I've done myself, and then slowly but surely, to your point, brought in people who not only could do what I was doing, but did it better, right? And I think now I have the luxury of trusting that team to go out and represent the brand and what it stands for. And I think as long as we stand firm on that and we set those expectations from the jump, we don't deviate from that, that allows me to step out of the day-to-day of the gym, which at 20 locations is not feasible, right? So there's studios that I haven't been. It's a bit awkward when you go in and you don't know people's names, or more awkward when they have no idea who I am. I'm like, I'm the guy on the TV. Come on, what do you mean? But I think that's just been a natural evolution and one that I've had to lean into. So instead of coaching the classes, I coach my team. I coach our franchise partners, and they coach me too, right? Because they're in the trenches, they're with our members, and at the end of the day, that's who we're serving. So it's been a transition for me, admittedly, but I think one that over the last year, 2 years of truly franchising, I've had to accept and grow into.
You taking off your top at High Rocks probably helps.
Always, yeah, always.
Popping the top on the skier is always his move.
Come on.
So you guys, as you're starting to grow, as you're starting to build this more and more, they say it's a blessing and a curse to be an entrepreneur. Is there an end to the tunnel? And what does that look like? Do you ever say, okay, this is enough for me? Is it ever, what is it, 50 studios, 100 studios? What's the end goal?
We've got a clear mission. We want to have 2,000 squads by the end of 2030. So that's our goal. That's where we're focused. That's where we coach our team on. That's our metrics every week. So once we've got 2,000 squads in that time period, then we'll reevaluate.
How many gyms is that? How many locations?
We think we'll need 100 locations to do that. Yeah.
And then you ride off into the sunset.
We'll see. Yeah.
Yeah, I think for us, it's, we hyper-focus on the next phase specifically because there is no future phase without executing on the vision right now. So for us, it's as we go outside the confines of what feels like my hometown state of New Jersey, it's make sure that we meet that brand, reputation that we're hoping to build and just deliver on the hype, right? And that doesn't happen without taking care of business right now. And so as we approach, Connecticut and Westchester and Long Island, Pennsylvania, Philadelphia, so on and so forth, we're still growing very organically in a certain region, which I think will be to our benefit. And we need to kick ass and make sure that happens. And if we fail along the way, and that there's no 80 studios the year after, right? So for right now, it's make sure we take care of business, take care of our people, both members, employees, franchisees. It's an entire ecosystem, and there's a massive responsibility and yet opportunity to follow through and make that happen.
Doug, what's the goal? Where are we going?
God, changing every day, right? So kind of put it on the board last week when in their internal meetings saying, how can we touch 100 million lives, right? So we've got 1.2 million people racing. That's not a sport, right? So how does a sport live on a day-to-day basis? I think there's 600 million people running, 400 million people playing soccer. How can we touch as many lives as possible? We're in 8,000 gyms at the moment. We're doing some web scraping as well. We're probably into 20,000 gyms already of people running High Rocks programming, High Rocks classes. So that's a little bit our footprint now. How do we get into those gyms? How do we service big box gyms as well as these amazing functional training facilities? And then let the sport do the job and see if we can get to those 100 million people.
Gentlemen, any closing remarks for our audience?
It's weird being in a suit with you guys. Tell you what.
Well, guys, that's all we have for you today. Give it up for these 3 gentlemen. Unbelievable job.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.